Hi, welcome to the Real Lab website. On the website you'll be able to find a number of different things that will help you and your students work throughout the Real Lab in the Nature Center preserve that we have west of the football field. When you access the ETHS Real Lab, one of the first things that you'll notice on the left sidebar are documents and flora and fauna. In the flora and fauna section you would find a number of different things that are easily recognizable out in the Nature Center, whether they're amphibians or bugs, spiders, skulls we might find, birds, and so on. What we're looking for in the future, though, is when you go out with your students, you actually take pictures and upload them. So that way we can have a running record of the animals and plant species that we see out there at the Nature Center. You can go through and recognize bacteria, a little bit harder to spot and identify, but we might find those as well. Fungi, plants, and the protists. The gallery section is a section for you to upload pictures of your students actively engaged in the Nature Center. Keep in mind that if you use a picture of a student and their face, you will have to get permission. A little bit of the history of the Nature Center on the side. Instructor pages if you would like to upload any of your materials. You can see mine. I have a number of materials that I've added up here through the site, and I encourage you to please go through and add everything that you have. This is my website and the link to my website so students could access that as well. This is a link to Mr. Smith's website and as well the Historical Nature Center site. The purpose of today's discussion is the Pasco probe instructions and how to use the Pasco probes when you're out at the Nature Center. Each one of the probes comes with a QR identifier, and you can use the iPads that are accessible at the website to identify all of the instructions associated with that particular piece of equipment. The AirLink 2, clicking the QR reader on the bag will give you all the instructions on how to use that. Same thing with the CO2 sensor, as well as the humidity, dew point sensor, light sensor, pH, etc. for each one of these things going through. Before you go out with your students, you will assign specific tasks for them to perform when out at the Nature Center. If, for example, you chose for a student to work on the CO2 sensor, whether they're doing dissolved CO2 or CO2 in the air, we have a meter that will test for it. This particular carbon dioxide sensor is not for dissolved carbon dioxide, but for gaseous carbon dioxide, and would most likely be used in the real lab itself and not out in the field. But nonetheless, you would click on the instructions down below. By clicking on the attachment, you will see all the instructions specific. You could also highlight, or you could scan the QR code on the bag, and that would also bring up the same set of instructions so students know exactly how to calibrate the material. Most likely you won't be using this, as you will be practicing with very specific tasks that you have for your students when out there. Now that you're ready to go out into the field with your students and begin to collect data, the students need somewhere to put all of that data. On the ETHS website, accessible through the iPads, you can see the data collection form. Students can click on the data collection form, or you can embed the URL data for the data collection form directly. Clicking on this will provide this particular form. I'm signed in now as myrs at eths202.org. Not me, sign out. Kids could sign in, either way. At the top you'll notice that there are a number of different sites, and these are the general sites that we use at the ETHS Nature Center. Even though that the data form will provide a timestamp, we feel that it's important for the students to actually put in today's date and time when they're taking their tests and when they're recording their data. Students would fill out who is their teacher. In this case, I've only got the three of us who are Fear, McLean, and myself who are working on it. As well, students would then go in and list in who it is that is working. Meyer, McLean, Fear. Which site am I working at? Students would know right away based on the assignment that you've given them, or whether or not they're choosing a particular site. This form is meant to be inclusive of all the possible tests that are out there, so it is quite lengthy, but if a student isn't doing a particular test, they should simply skip it. What is the ambient air temperature? Students would then record what it is, preferably in degrees Celsius. So let's say it's one of those hot days that we've had recently, and we'll say that it's 35 degrees. What's the solar light intensity measured with your Pasco light intensity probes? And so on as the students go through each one of their tests. Forest transect. Some teachers are still doing the transect, and if you are, here's a beginning part of that section. But as you notice, we'll go through. We've got tests for soil chemistry, tests for water chemistry, continuing with water quality, and that brings us to the end. When the students are done, they will simply hit submit at the end of the page. The data is then centrally collected. If I click on Google Drive, you will see ETHS Nature Center Chemical Data Profile form. This one is in my file, but there's no reason why you wouldn't have one in your own. And go ahead and we would actually collect, and it would record all of the data that's been collected. It automatically, there's the timestamp that I mentioned before, it records who's logged in, the date, the location, and on for each one of the tests that were performed. Okay, at this point in time, we can then centrally collect all of the data from all of the teachers that are working out at the Nature Center, and we can also pick and choose or mine the data from this particular spreadsheet to use as we see fit.